for the Bears, more and more it is looking like Caleb Williams will be the guy there. And you are basically banking that Caleb Williams is going to be Patrick Mahomes, that he's going to come in, he's going to have DJ Moore, he's going to have a vastly improved defense. You're hoping that he gets rid of the bad habits, the sort of hero ball habits. Have you been watching film? Have you been trying to gather intel on Caleb Williams? What's your latest sort of feeling on him?
So I haven't hit all the quarterbacks. I didn't hit the Michigan kid yet, but I've done Daniels, I've done Drake May, and I've done Williams, obviously. And um, yeah, I would say the thing people need to separate is they're comparing Williams to the prospect that Mahomes was in college. And I don't think enough people are making a distinction where they're like, they think people are comparing him to Mahomes in the pros. It's not. I want people to really drill into their head where we're comparing him to what Mahomes was in college. And if you don't know this, Mahomes had a lot of really bad habits in college. Like there was a bunch of reasons why he was not a unanimous number one or even a top three pick, which I know looking back, it looks really stupid. But again, the Chiefs had the foresight to take him over Deshaun Watson, which I do think is such a crazy thing looking back on that they had the idea that it's like, no, this is the guy that's better than the Heisman national champ winner. But yeah, it's Williams again. You have to take him if you're a Bears team. Like going through all of it, like that is the guy. Like the Mahomes pulling the ball down and making magic with his feet, either moving in the pocket and passing or running outside the pocket. That's where Williams is the clone of him, where he has this incredible pocket awareness, this cool comic collectiveness, and he's smart as hell. Like Kingsbury was throwing some crazy ass offensive stuff at him, and he was running it no problem. So um, I I look at this now with the Bears team. We even talked about it months ago where all the math nerds were going to tell them they had to draft, even if Williams wasn't the next Mahomes, you kind of have to move on from Fields to him just because of the way the money works in the NFL nowadays. But the biggest thing is the fact that you guys also have pick nine. So the fact that you can get him and in a class that has three receivers, like again, Marvin Harris Jr. is A1, but the two guys right below him are right there. Like you're going to be able to get him with a stud number one receiver or offensive lineman. That's how you build out a winning franchise. And we saw the kind of a little bit of a blueprint last year where I knocked Houston for it that they traded their first round pick for a DN, but they obviously worked out. They got the defensive rookie of the year and the offensive rookie of the year. So that's the thing, right? Like you're trying to put building blocks here. And the dream is obviously for you, Chad, where it's like you want to be a year early. Like even if they limp into the playoffs at 8-9 or 9-8, that would be the dream scenario of drafting Williams in this team. But I would say between the Bears' track record, like their history of drafting these quarterbacks, it's going to come down to coaching. Like Williams has the talent. Did the Bears get the right people in place? And you know it is, Chad. It's weird you guys kept your head coach. Like the whole scenario is very weird. So it'll be interesting to see if there is no development this year, if they just move on right after 1 year. It's like don't waste that talent of Williams. Bring in some offensive mind and build out around this kid.
It's interesting to me, two things. One, Patrick Mahomes, coach slash coordinator, calling the plays at Texas Tech, Cliff Kingsbury, same
Yeah.
as Caleb Williams at USC. So either Cliff Kingsbury continues to show how bad he is because he's got generational talent that he cannot get in a position to dominate because they have these terrible habits. And you make a really good point about comparing Williams to Mahomes in college. And scouts I've spoken to, and I've spoken to some, have said he's so much further along than Mahomes was in college. And a lot of the bad habits developed at the end of this last year, which leads to my second point. It's about want, right? And one of the reasons we loved the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is because we just believe Mahomes is so competitive and so good. If he has the ball in his hands in the last 2 minutes, he's going to find a way for his team to win. And Caleb Williams, everyone made fun of him for the way he reacted after one of the games where he was crying in the stands with his mom.
Yeah, loved
I
it.
thought I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it proved how much he cares about winning. And like, don't I want that on my team? I'm not making fun of that. I think that's brilliant. That to me is everything I want in a quarterback who cares that deeply that he cannot contain his emotions after losing a regular season game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff we've heard. Like he's just a different dude, and obviously it's part of generational stuff. But you talk to anyone that's a man on that team, they respect the hell out of him. They view him as their leader. And in football, that's half the battle right there. Zach Wilson was dead on arrival. You know why? No one respected him as a leader in that locker room. He was never going to be the leader of the Jets, and they made a huge mistake with that. Where I don't have that fear with Williams. I actually have more of that fear with Drake May. Again, we'll dive more into him come draft season, but yeah, like the Bears, you guys won the lottery. Like you have to take this kid where like I'm an Eagles fan. We haven't had the number one pick, I think, since the 1950s or 60s. Like these rare opportunities don't come along. And it's even rare where there is a unanimous guy, right? Like all the shit we want to give Trevor Lawrence, I still think you always take Trevor Lawrence in that spot. All the shit you want to give the team for taking, Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert at the time or whatever it was, like the number one pick, it tends to work out where these second picks, again, Carson Wentz was my quarterback of the Eagles. The second pick tends to fade away where the number one pick seems like over these last couple of years have been the more surefire pick. So yeah, like I keep saying, Bears fans, I'm just jealous because this is the funnest. This is as a football fan, these are the best days where you guys have all this hope about the future. You're not like me and Matt Mitchell yet, which is already you already had your quarterback for a couple years and you see their ugly warts and what their issues are. Where yeah, right now, like you just hear anyone talking about Williams, it's all flowers and butterflies. Like everyone's just so in love with this kid, but he is going to have massive growing pains. I've already seen it. You've just talked about it. Like all these little bad habits he picked up last year is not going to get better in Chicago. You guys have a bad offensive line. Like there are ways to attack this team. And again, you guys have a lot of money. If they address the offensive line, if they do all these things, I mean, this really the sky's the limit for Williams. He really is the prototype of Mahomes' playing style.
Um, I feel like you just mentioned, well, it's interesting how much clarity there is once you get away from the season. We were having all these debates. Do you keep Justin Fields? Do you trade Justin Fields? Do you take Caleb Williams? Remove from the season, there's no lack of clarity. You
No.
trade Justin Fields, you get Caleb Williams, you do all the right things financially, you find a way to get some offensive linemen, you put this team in a position to be one of what could be the best divisions in football in the NFC North between the Packers, the Lions, a resurgent Vikings team, and then a resurgent Bears team. You could see it. You could definitely
Yeah.
see that being a really competitive, everyone above 500, like the AFC North division.
Yeah. And no, that could quickly become one of the harder divisions of all of football. So that's why I love they're making this move though, because if you guys do strike out on Williams, who cares? You're right back in the exact position you've been in for what, 15 years now?
Yeah,
So it's
right.
like you might as well try to go for the moon. If you're going to miss, who cares?